Hello and welcome back to the Finding Your Feet podcast, a podcast show dedicated to helping you get closer to your true authentic self by helping you find your feet in life.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Hope you're keeping well. Just a little chat with just me and Abby today. We're talking all about the book, A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, because it's a book that we read like a few months ago now, and it's one of those books that really imprints on you and really changes the way you think, explains a lot of things, especially if you're on like a spiritual journey, which we know a lot of our listeners are, because you've kind of been going on the spiritual journey with us as we've been talking about various different spiritual things throughout the podcast lifetime. And this book just kind of like explains so many things that maybe you didn't fully understand within spirituality, and just really interesting way of thinking. And like it also explains a lot about manifestation and the power of your thoughts and things like that. So we thought we'd do a whole episode about it, because we have done book reviews before of just like one book for one episode. We only do it when it's like a cracking book. We've only ever done it. We've only done it once before. We did it with Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Oh, and Women Don't Owe You Pretty by Florence Given. Yeah, and you guys love it when we talk through a book, but we only bring you the very best books.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we've done this. So this, this was a really pretty life-changing book, you know.
Yeah,
So.
I feel like we couldn't have not done an episode really, because it's just the kind of book that you have so many breakthroughs, especially within like your spiritual journey. I feel like it explains so many things for us. And as well, just all the principles that we're going to take away from it are just life-changing. Like that returning to love is something that we'll just cherish for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So there's going to be so many nuggets of wisdom within this episode. So you really want to listen carefully and definitely read the book.
Yeah. Like so many of the people that I really admire in like the wellness world and stuff have said this book is like life-changing. So I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to read it. And I'd actually had it like screenshotted in my phone for months and forgot that I even had it and just hadn't ordered it yet. And then you know when a book comes to you at the time you need it. So then it came around and it was the time, because I love Melissa Wood Health, which manifesting with her to come on the podcast at some point. I like love her, and she said that this book literally changed her life, and she's read it multiple times. I'll probably go back and reread this, because
definitely.
there is a lot to take in with it, and I think that you probably, like, if you read it again in a year or something, you're in a different place, you'll probably get new lessons from it. Because there's just so much in that. But I think it's fun how we can like sit and chat about it now and like break it down into like bite-sized normalness, because obviously like it's not like a really crazy book, but it is quite a spiritual heavy book. But a lot of it actually does really apply to your normal life, especially with like relationships and stuff like that. So book club.
Excited to get into it. It's also, I love this book because it's quite deep, but then also she has like quite a humour about her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's quite funny. There's like some bits that you really like chuckle at, and I think that just kind of brings you back down to earth.
Yeah, she drops some like I don't think she's meaning to be funny at all, but she drops like some like really savage one-liners in there, and you're like, okay.
Quick one, guys, don't forget, if you are listening to this on the day of release, there is only a few days left until our New Year workshop, the Invest in Your Dreams workshop, on the 16th of January at 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. It is going to be 2 hours of complete manifesting fun, aligning your goals, meditation, affirmations, all the things you love, raising our vibe together. We cannot wait to see you all there.
Yeah, so book your spot. You don't want to miss out. There's only a few days left. Just head to our website, findingyourfeetpodcast.com, or click the link in our show notes to secure your spot.
That's all for now. Let's get into the episode. So within this book, Marianne takes you through different ways that you can return to love in all areas of your life. So she goes through work, relationships, finding heaven on earth, so many different avenues. But one of the main things, and I think the chapter that probably stood out to us the most that we kept discussing, we're like, oh my gosh, is the relationships chapter. And does she go to town in that chapter?
Oh my God, yeah.
Like there are so many one-liners, and you read it, and if you don't drop your ego, like you're literally just going to be offended.
Yeah, I never realised I was such a such an egotistical person in relationships, honestly.
Yeah, like I think you have to take it with a pinch of salt. Don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Some
yeah.
parts I read and I was like,
Yeah,
oh
some of
my
it's
gosh.
a bit like, whoa.
Yeah.
But some of it's like fair point.
Yeah, but I think that's the art of her work and the way that she writes is it really evokes you to think. Like even some things I read and I was like, what the hell? But then the next day I'd be like really thinking about it, like, oh my God, like that is my ego and stuff like that. So there's so many great avenues in it. But one thing that really stands out is this idea of her saying that there is no Mr. Right and that Mr. Right is a myth. And she explains in the book that there is no Mr. Right, just the same way there is no Mr. Wrong. And every single relationship is absolutely divinely perfect the way it is. And I loved reading this part because I really think even this translates into things like divorce. You know, like I really believe that the person that you're with at the time is divinely perfect for that moment. As long as, like, let's put aside, as long as you're not being treated really badly, it's divinely perfect for that moment. And if a relationship ends, it doesn't mean that it's failure because you're always going to learn exactly what you need to learn from that person. And I think it just takes off the pressure of thinking, oh my gosh, I need to find Mr. Right, this perfect person. Yeah, like there isn't necessarily a perfect person. There's a perfect person for you at a given time to learn what you need to learn. And she explains that in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, this book is like, it's spiritual. There's a lot of talk of God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, just FYI, people listening. Because that might put some people off, but like once you get about 20, 30 pages in, you kind of just realise that the Holy Spirit is just like the universe. And like, if you don't like to use the word God, it's just the universe. And she doesn't mention Jesus that much.
No.
So even though it's like, that's all kind of related to a religion, it's not a religious book. Like it's just a universe book. But it's not like a wishy-washy spiritual book at all. Like it's, you know, it is very profound. And like, there's parts of it, like what we're about to speak about, that are actually really applicable to your life right now in that moment. And that relationship chapter is like the biggest part of the book, and it's like the thing that I think it's a lot of things in it that like unsaid from anyone else. Like it's all stuff that like, you're like, oh my God, that's so true, and no one says that. No one's like raised your awareness of that. So I'd say the relationship part is the biggest, like the most life-changing part of the book. And like someone telling you Mr. Right is a myth completely goes against chick flicks, romantic comedies, society, Disney films, everything. All you hopeless romantics out there, it's like going against like all of that, like that someone's coming to like save you. And it does make sense. Like there isn't a Mr. Right, like as in. And again, if there's anyone listening that's like dates women, or if there's guys listening that, you know, Mrs. Right, you know, we're just going to say Mr. Right because we're girls here and we like boys. And that's what she calls it in the book. But like obviously use it as applicable to your unique situation. But Mr. Right, she was saying in it that how can you expect somebody like to show up in your life and be so perfect and completely fit the bill of what you want, like, and for them to fix everything for you and like take all your pain away and like literally fix all your needs. Like that's such a heavy weight to put on one person. Like any relationship would break down if you've got that level of expectation on somebody. And as well, like she says in it, and you know, we've had relationship coaches and stuff say this to us on the podcast before, like you are whole as you are. So you don't need another person to complete you, but obviously like a relationship is just a really beautiful like addition to your life. But it's not like, oh my God, if you don't have it, like you're an incomplete person. However, it can add so much to your life, like if you're, you know, coming at it from the right place. But when you're there sitting waiting for Mr. Right and you're buying into this Mr. Right story that was sold from like when we're kids, like Prince Charming, you know, Sleeping Beauty, always going to come and save you. You're just literally saying like, I'm not whole as I am when you are. And I think like how many people in there, like especially like in your 20s, I think kind of just sit there and wait for love and like wait for a relationship and stuff like that. And because the thing with like your 20s, and I've been thinking about it quite a lot recently because I've been listening to Tinks on TikTok. And you guys might know who she is if you are on TikTok. She's like got loads of followers, but she's an absolute vibe, and she talks so much about, cause she's 30 now, she's been through her 20s, and she talks so much about like how your 20s are really weird years because all your like peers and friends are like sort of achieving those life milestones that we all kind of aspire for at very different times. You know, some people move away from home really young, some people stay at home, some people buy a house young, some people don't do it until later, some people don't do it at all, some people get engaged when they're 25, some people do it when they're 35, like you know. But you'll have your friendship group, and you've been going through life literally like through school year on year, all hitting the same milestones at the same time, college, university if you go there, all that stuff. And then once you get out of the schooling system and into the world, you all start to hit them at different times. So you can start to, if you're not aware of it, like be like, oh, why have they already found their passion yet and I haven't? Why have they already found like the Mr. Right, their soulmate or whatever, and I haven't? Why have they already bought a property if that's what you want to do, whatever, and I haven't? Things like questions like that you ask yourself, and you can literally just ruin your experience of life with that kind of mindset. And this book highlights that as well, like why, like sitting there and waiting for Mr. Right is such like a low vibration. And this is again when she gets a bit savage. She literally put in the book, it made me laugh out loud. She was like, you're sitting there and like you're waiting for Mr. Right, and she really encourages you as well to like basically work on yourself. So like in your 20s, when you're sitting there and you're comparing your life to your friends who are at different parts of where you are, like they might be doing the same thing to you. You might have found your purpose and they haven't, but they're in a relationship and they're thinking, why have I not found mine? She's found hers. Like we're all, like everyone's always doing it to each other at different things. But you can literally be sat there like wasting time thinking thoughts like that, rather than like enjoying your life, like being happy, pursuing your work things, enjoying your friends, not worrying too much about all that stuff. Because I really do think like a lot of it is just fate and stuff like that. Like as in like, you haven't really got control over when you're going to cross paths with someone who you're compatible with. Like, you know, you can put yourself out there and like put yourself in situations to meet someone, go out, go to bars, go to events, go on apps, like do different things, like be open to it, open your awareness to like that love's all around, which is also what she says in the book, that love's all around, and that the ego just like tells you that love is not all around, and like that like you're just waiting for some perfect person to come and like show up. And she was saying like that's actually just your ego like blindsiding you against the opportunity in your life now to like be with someone amazing. But you can literally like spend like such a huge amount of your energy in your 20s like looking at where other people are versus where you're not, and just not enjoy your life when you just need to enjoy where you're at and like be really happy for like your friends at different milestones and all this stuff. But she was saying like with the waiting for Mr. Right, like you're just there in like a desperate vibration, in that like you're sitting there like, I'm not whole because I'm waiting for Mr. Right to come, I'm waiting for this thing, and you're not like living life, enjoying life, working on yourself. And she said in it that like when she was younger, she used to sit around, because before she discovered A Course in Miracles, which is what this book is influenced by, before she discovered that, which is like a big like spiritual like Bible kind of vibe thing. We don't actually have the book, but like basically this book is an interpretation of A Course in Miracles, so it like kind of makes it make more sense. But like before she discovered A Course in Miracles, Marianne Williamson's life was a bit of a mess. Like she was a bit all over the place. And she was saying she used to sit there and wait for Mr. Right. And she was like, and so she wouldn't sit there and like work on herself so that she was like ready for when somebody great came into her life. She would sit there and wait for Mr. Right to come along so that they can fix all her pain and needs. And then she said like, what person have you ever heard say, oh, I met And I met a wonderful, desperate woman last night. Like, and it's so true. Like, if you're just like enjoying your life, you know, having fun with your friends, working on yourself, enjoying your work, pursuing your interests, and just living your bloody life, like waiting for Mr. Right, he will or she will just appear when the time is right, because the universe has a plan.
So true. I think, yeah, definitely with the relationships, it comes back to that again, like of what we always say anyway, of picking love over fear. And I think as well with the comparison, because I think it's so easy to pick fear and think, oh my God, they're doing this, they're doing that. But like, even I was listening to Jordan Peterson the other day, and he was saying, I don't know if you listened to it with Stephen, he was talking about like your fate, and he was saying like your fate is enough. So often like we compare our lives to other people and we have absolutely no idea what is going on. So that person that you could be comparing, I don't know, your relationship, or say like they've bought a home and you're like, oh my God, I still live with my parents. Like, you never ever know what is going on behind closed doors. So I think you always have to keep that in mind, definitely in your 20s. And that's really interesting as well, what you're saying about the school. That's so true, because you're always at the same stage, you're always doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're
not
doing wild different things.
You couldn't be more different when you're in your 20s. Like, you couldn't all be at different stages. Like, because obviously then once you get to like 30, like, I still think when you're 30 you're doing loads of different things, but when you get to like 40, 50, typically most people kind of have found a life partner, and you start to, if you want to, have a family. So then you're kind of like sort of in a similar thing. But yeah, I mean, you're all over the place, and like, you can't waste your energy thinking, why am I not here or there, or why have they already become really successful in their career and I've not, and because, you know, your life is what it is for the reason it is, and like, you can't wish for somebody else's life. Like, I have heard so many people recently saying this as well, like, when you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, like, they're so successful, I wish I was them, I want their success. It's like, okay, and it might actually be Jordan Peterson that said this as well. I don't know if he said it in that Stephen Bartlett interview. He might have said it in something else where I've listened to him. But if it wasn't him, I'm not sure, but I feel like it was. But like, they said anyway that if you want that success that person has, you have to give up everything in your life. You have to completely swap places, like, as in, because the only way that you're going to get there is if you like have gone through all the steps to get there, and a lot of those steps are really tough steps, difficult moments, or you might even be that like the reason that person's so successful is because they had a massive insecurity within them that was driving them to be successful for a huge need of validation. Not saying that that's a bad thing, because actually I think, you know, like, but that does happen sometimes. Like, you can see big high achievers, it's sometimes because of a constant need for validation to feel enough. So they'll be extremely high achievers because they've got this deep I'm not enough until I am whatever that is they think they need to be, and that can be from childhood, like not being told they're enough and things like that. So like, if you want that person's big massive success, you have to be willing to completely swap places with them, and also give up everything in your life that you've enjoyed and loved so far, because if you want that, you have to live their life. And then when you think like that, you think, no, I wouldn't do that then.
Because you have to enjoy everything they've been through as well, so you probably wouldn't even trade places. But one thing I love as well that she talks about relationships is she kind of does take it from the stand that relationships do really take work. Because I think a lot of the time, like in those kind of like fairy tales and the rom-coms and everything, you can think, oh my God, relationships are so easy. Like, you just fall into someone like a little puzzle piece and everything's fine. But she really, again, like highlights where your ego can come into a relationship and where it can really, really sabotage you, especially if someone that's actually right for you at the time comes along that can really help you learn and grow. And you may push them away because of your ego, when you could have just like learned lessons from them. Like we said at the start, everyone is absolutely perfect for you at the time. And she explains that you could actually be put with someone that might not be who you're meant to eventually be with, but you're divinely perfect to be with them at the time, to create that deeper intimacy, to get to know yourself that bit more and to get to know them more. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, like, it is such like a co-creation of energy. Like there's so much to take into account. And there was a bit in the book where I literally highlighted it and put wow underneath it, because I was like,
wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like you said, I've never read anything or heard anyone speak about kind of like relationships in this way. And this is like really deep. So kind of like listen to this and maybe like let it simmer after a while. But I'm just going to read this little part of the book. So there's this part of the book where she's talking about relationships and as well how your ego plays a role within relationships. And it says, in the relationship, I'm afraid to show you the real truth about myself, my fears, my weaknesses, because I'm afraid that if you see them, you'll leave. I'm assuming you're as judgmental as I am, and I'm also not jumping up and down wanting to see your weak spots either, because it makes me nervous to think I'm involved with someone who has them. And that rung home for me so much, because I think even in the past when you're kind of seeking a romantic partner and stuff, you can really start to pick people apart.
Yeah.
Because you hold yourself to a high standard, which is quite natural. But I think reading that part really made me take into account, like, where is that actually my ego? Because no one's perfect. Everyone has things to work through. Everyone has downfalls. And I know I certainly do. So, like, who are you really to judge someone's downfalls? But the only reason you would judge someone's downfall is because you're judging your own. So the more you release the judgment on yourself, so that, like, for example, myself, the more I release the judgment on the imperfect parts of me, the more I will allow somebody else to be imperfect and just be as they are. And I think that's definitely something I will always hold in my relationships now, is if I'm thinking, God, what's the matter with you? Why did you do that? Like, I'm actually really just judging myself, and where I wouldn't allow myself to be imperfect in that moment, which I think is just quite hard to get your head around a bit.
Or even you're judging them because you're judging yourself, that you are associated in a relationship with someone who isn't perfect, and then you're judging yourself for that as well. That's what she was saying.
Yeah, and like you wouldn't, and where it says, I'm afraid to show you the real me, my fears, my weaknesses, because I'm afraid you'll leave. So you don't want them to show you that because you'll leave.
Yeah, and like you basically, like, we self-abandon all the time. I don't mean just me and you as a collective, us people. We all self-abandon a lot on our things that we don't like about ourselves. Like, we find that really hard to accept in and love, like, things that are seemingly negative and things, the imperfect parts of ourselves. Like, we self-reject. So it's just a deflection of that just onto somebody else, back onto you.
Yeah. So I think like with that, but obviously, like we said before, intuitively, if you're in a relationship now, if something is at the point where it's like unhealthy or whatever. But if it's like a matter of you not wanting to see your pain or judging their pain, I think it's just a matter of like walking into that and thinking like, what would happen if I actually looked at this relationship like a bond? We're here together. And she explains that in the book. She's like, your relationships, like, you're together for a reason. You're to learn and grow and develop into the people that you're meant to be together. Like, you have a role, a soul contract together.
Soul contract.
Yeah, and on the subject of soul contracts, you guys might not have heard it before. It's a pretty wild concept. I think we actually touched on it in Estelle's.
We asked Estelle about it because I thought a soul contract was a destiny and a purpose. I didn't realise it meant you before you come in.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah, I thought it was like your individual purposes in like, okay, when I come up and reincarnate on this earth as
But
Grace.
it is, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, but she was saying that's a soul destiny, what she said it was. And that you, like, okay, so you can reincarnate on this earth is this body of grace, and your destiny is to be a podcaster on the Finding Your Feet podcast. Whereas she was saying soul contracts is obviously what you're about to explain, but where you pre-agree with somebody else to do something. It's a bit weird. So we should definitely disclaim about toxic relationships, because I think you can, like, sometimes
this is where it's like a muddy middle bit.
Yeah, there's a bit of a line, and you need to just watch, like, because we'll just explain soul contracts, then we'll go there.
Yeah, so soul contracts is like I said, it's quite far out, bit woohoo, but I think the more you actually learn about it, the more you can just like take parts of it into your life, and you don't have to take it so full on. But basically, when I was reading this book, I was also listening to the audiobook Soul Contracts by Caroline Myss, and that is all about how before you come down to earth, when you're a spirit in the sky, you get a set of contracts of who you're going to encounter in your life. So who you are going, like, destined to be is determined on your contract. So say if you have a parent figure that acted in a certain way, that is a contract to make you into the person you are meant to be. And obviously that comes into relationships. So say you had a relationship with someone for a year, you learn what you need to learn, people say that is a contract. But she also does explain in it that you have these contracts, but you also have free will. She keeps you quite grounded in that way, that you always have free will. So whether you're in a contract or not, like, we're humans on earth, you always have options. It's not that, like, you have these contracts and, like, you're stuck in them forever and the spiritual world is, like, deciding your life. No. It's not like that. You have free will, but you have these soul contracts. She does really keep you grounded in the way that you're a human on earth and you always have free will, but she does explain that you have these soul contracts and they make you the person you are. So when I was listening to that audiobook, I was also reading this, and I really feel like the way that they teach, really, even though Marianne doesn't necessarily say soul contracts, it really, like, infiltrates and all kind of, like, mixes together.
Yeah, soul contracts, very interesting. I think it is a very, like, spiritual concept. So, like, you're never going to be able to prove to anyone whether it's real or not. As in, like, people listening now might be like, what the hell are you talking about? Some people might, oh, that's interesting. Or, yeah, I really believe in that. Like, it's kind of, like, up to you what you kind of think. But it's linked to the idea of that we just reincarnate all the time, and, like, that we've lived past lives and we're souls and we come onto the earth and live in a body and and before we come. And it's this idea that we as souls agree to learn lessons through other people when we come and incarnate on this planet. But I think what's really important to remember with all of these spiritual concepts, because your level of spirituality is, like, completely unique to you and dependent on how far you want to go with it. And I think you go further and pull back at different times of your life. Like, it's just like a journey. But the most important thing to remember through all of it, because sometimes it just gets a bit too out there and you're like, can make you feel like you're not in control, like, as in, oh, I'm in a toxic relationship, so is it because I'm in a soul contract and I'm meant to be doing this because the universe told me to before I incarnated? Okay, I'll stay in this abusive relationship. Like, that's really not a good way to think. No. And that's where you have to kind of, like, you know, just keep your feet on the ground and, like, just discern for yourself what is the right thing, rather than, like, giving all your mental power away to like, you've got to, again, free will. Like, you have free will with everything we're doing. Like, all the spiritual stuff, like, it's all amazing and, like, but yeah, we are humans at the end of the day, and, like, you have full control and full choices over, like, how far you want to go with all of it. But in this book, she doesn't talk about soul contracts, but she does say about how every, like, sort of relationship you have is perfect, in that, like, the person you're crossing paths with, you're kind of, like, meant to be crossing paths with, because, you know, you say to the universe, she says, she doesn't say really the word universe, she says God, but that's literally what it means. So you say to the universe, I want a beautiful, deep, intimate relationship. Like, and she says in that, like, the universe knows that. You don't need to make that clear to them. They already know that that's what you want. But in order for you to get there, sometimes you've got to just remove the blocks that you have on yourself to love. Like, she was saying that rather than sitting around waiting, it's got that TikTok sound in my head. While you were sitting around doing niche, I was just making moves. You know that one?
Yeah.
Anyway, so while you're, like, sitting around waiting for Mr. Right and all of this stuff, waiting for love to show up, what you should really be doing is working on yourself to remove any barriers you hold yourself to love, because we all have, like, barriers to love, like, within our own development, like, reasons why we, like, block it out. Some people are more guarded than others because of past experiences and heartbreaks and traumas and all of that stuff. If you're actively spending your time raising your awareness to literally lift these barriers and blocks off you that you have against love, then you're gonna be open and ready when Mr. Right, who's a myth, but like the person that, you know, you're gonna connect with and have that deep, intimate relationship with that you ask for, when they're going to show up and you're going to be ready. So she says in it, literally, like, don't tell the universe, like, that's what you want. They already know that that's what you want. You don't need to sit there and say that all the time. But you just, in the meantime, you need to work on yourself, because it's like a journey of growth to get there. And each person that you do have a relationship with, no matter how long or short that experience is, it's the reason why it hasn't carried on and sustained itself is because it's not meant to, because that person is literally just meant to teach you a lesson. So if you're in a situation where you have that kind of person, let them go, because the longer I think you hold on to that, the longer the longer you're making yourself wait for the person that is on your like vibe and like is going to be in that relationship with you that you want, the one that you truly want, and the deep intimate relationship you want. The longer you hold on to like these people that have come and like caused a bit of drama, but it's to teach you a lesson, the longer like you wait, you're keeping yourself away from that. But like those people, they all serve a purpose. They're meant to help you trigger things within yourself, because you like when you get triggered, it's like it's an opportunity to heal. Like relationships bring up so much stuff that you didn't even realize was in your brain and stuff like that you need to get rid of. Like they're like the biggest revealing thing in terms of like personal growth, I think. Like in terms of like revealing the parts of you that need to be healed and worked on. But just because every person like teaches a lesson, she says it's like whatever perfect, doesn't mean that like if you are right now listening to this in like an abusive relationship, a really toxic relationship, or anything that's where like that line of like where the spiritual world talks about all that stuff, but like just keep it real as well, and like just take it with a pinch of salt, and don't start sort of romanticizing really toxic relationships in that thinking that it's a soul contract, it's meant to be like this, and you know what I mean, because it's just a slippery slope, and really what you need to do is just get yourself out of that relationship safely. So if anyone is in that situation right now, I don't want you to take this as ill advice, and or this book, anything, like you need to pinch of salt when it comes to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well with that, you can kind of just think, especially with like relationships, you can kind of think, am I getting into relationships where the same pattern is repeating and you're ended up in the same situation? And if that is the case, maybe you keep ended up in these like slightly toxic relationships. That's when you know that's something to heal within you. Like you have a soul contract to heal that, and that's your responsibility to heal that and move on, not to stay in the relationship and think, oh, I'm just meant to be here. If something keeps repeating in your life, then you need to look inside and think, where can I heal from this? Because that's a perfect example that you're in the relationship to heal. But I think that's all for relationships. I feel like anybody should really read that book, even if it's just for the relationship parts, because definitely so many parts of that I will take on in my relationships, and I'm definitely going to read over it because I feel like it's easy to forget.
Yeah, I've gone to like flick back to it at certain points and stuff and remind myself of things, like, because there was a lot in there, and it's like, it's all interesting to think about. So
if you're at the point where you want to dive deeper on your own self-development journey, or maybe you need support with your own mental health, we are very proudly sponsored by BetterHelp, who are an online therapy company with meaning. Their mission is to help you start living a happy life from today.
All you need to do is head to betterhelp.com/finding your feet and fill out a really quick questionnaire so that they can get a picture about who you are and what are your needs, and they will match you up with your perfect therapist in just 48 hours of signing up for your account, and you can start your therapy journey straight away. And the best thing about BetterHelp is it is a lot more affordable than traditional offline counselling, and if you are in need of financial aid, they give you an extra discount on top of that. So when it comes to seeing a therapist and getting the support you need, there really is nothing standing in your way when using BetterHelp, as it is all done online. And they are very kindly giving our listeners a 10% discount off your entire first month of online therapy with BetterHelp. Just head to the link betterhelp.com/finding your feet to start your journey today and get your 10% discount.
And there's absolutely no shame in therapy. If you have any questions at all about BetterHelp or about therapy in general, just come and chat to us on Instagram at Finding Your Feet Podcast.
that's all for now. Let's get back into the episode. The other really interesting section of the book, like that's kind of spanned across all of it, but like just really drilled home like the power of our minds and the power of our thoughts, and a lot of like your law of attraction material and things like that really do push all this home, and the process of like manifestation and everything. But this, I think, I don't know, took it to another level and made it make sense. Like I really think it goes really well hand in hand with like all books that you guys have probably already read, things like The Secret and all those kind of law of attraction-y books. I think it kind of just helps further deepen your like knowledge of all of that stuff and understanding. But there was a bit in the book where she says, because she does a lot of like workshops and lectures and stuff in person, and there was a part of the book where she said she was at a lecture in New York or something, and this guy said to her, I want to get a part in this TV show. It was like a really popular TV show at the time, and I'm writing down affirmations every single day. I am in whatever the TV show was called, blah, 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 like just repeating that over and over again, writing it down every day. And he's asking her like, will this work? Like, is this going to work? And she was like, yes, this is 100% going to work. You're going to get in that, because that's how powerful our minds are. Like if you are constantly focusing on something like that on quite an obsessive level, and you like trying to make it happen, and it will happen. But sometimes when you're sort of trying to draw things into your life and really focusing on them like that, you can be clinging on too hard that you aren't actually allowing any space in your life for bigger blessings to come in that are actually far greater than what your mind can actually comprehend. Like I love to think about my life and the things I want, but I also know that there's so much that I know that's going to come into my life that is never in my plan and is going to be like out of this world, in that my mind now can't even comprehend that, like doesn't it's not an idea because I don't know what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like so yeah, so she was basically said to this guy, yes, those affirmations and everything will work because our minds are that powerful, but what will happen is you'll get that show, that you'll get the part in that show, and then a year later a big director from Hollywood is gonna come and like approach you and want to give you a big full, like a big leading role in a big Hollywood movie, and you're not going to be able to take up the opportunity because you're tied into a contract for a little part-time role in like this TV show. So sometimes like it was just a really good example to help you understand that yes, if you want something you can have it, if you focus on it you will have it. Like that's how powerful our thoughts are. But if you focusing too much on one specific outcome and you're so attached to that, you actually really block like bigger blessings coming into your life. Because she talks a lot about how like you have a plan but the universe's plan is better, and it's like, or like I think she actually said your plan is wrong. So it was a little bit more savage than that, and I don't actually think your plan is wrong, because I think you want something, you want it for a reason.
Yeah.
Kind of, like, this is what I mean, pinch of salt with all some of the stuff she says, but that, you know, you are powerful, and if you focus on something you will get it, but just be careful not to focus on something too much to the point of obsession, in that then you don't allow any space in your life for something like unexpected and spontaneous, and like those serendipity moments where unexpected joy just appears into your life in ways that you actually didn't think. So that's what makes life fun.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it's weird because she actually explains that, like, I can't believe how much soul contracts, like, just, I feel like everyone should just listen to soul contracts as they read this book, because she explains exactly that. Like, if you got your blinkers on heading towards a goal, like, yeah, you'll get there. But what if something better is alongside and you're not going to see it because you've literally got your blinkers on heading towards one thing, and then you're going to miss all the other good opportunities. Like, the universe is always going to provide something, and it's going to be something probably bigger and better than you'd ever imagine. So focusing too much on one goal might actually end up sabotaging you, and if anything, it actually might end up being that kind of like comfort, like, oh no, I've got this goal, I'm heading towards this goal, like I'm not going to do anything else.
It's with like negative thoughts as well, like when you're focusing so much on like a negative thought of, oh God, panic, this isn't going to work, and oh God, I'm doomed, and oh, this is how it is. And then you actually full on put massive blinkers on you can just drive your mind into focusing so much on that you really cannot, like, you totally blind yourself from even seeing like all the great opportunities in your life. Like, that's why you've got to be careful to just kind of like sit back a little bit and just know that the universe is working for you as well. And like, just make sure you kind of lift your head up get your head off your desk, you know, when people like lie their head on the desk in despair, like lift your head up and like just kind of just look around and take in what else is out there and going on, because there's like opportunities literally like walking past your face every single day, but you're not always tuned into it, seeing it, because you're like tuned into like a repetitive story of like fear or like worry and like dread. It's not going to work, and this is the only way, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You can get trapped in it
sometimes. Weird how much you put blinkers on yourself.
Yeah,
and then you don't realise until after, and you're like, Jesus, what's going on there?
You gotta take the blinkers off. But another part of the book which I absolutely loved is one of her like really famous quotes, which is, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." And I think that again just strips you of your ego and makes you think, oh, it's not, because it's so easy to think, oh my God, I'm scared I'm not good enough, I'm scared I'm not powerful. But if we realize the power within us, and if we tune into that heart energy and realize that we can really like attract anything we want, it makes you hold yourself to a higher standard, because you believe in your power. If you believe how powerful you are and in your intention every single day, every conversation you have, then that means you have to change the way you act. You can't really act too low vibrational if you believe how powerful you are. So it's not that you are scared of being inadequate, it's actually that you're so scared of your power. And that quote for me just really changed the game, especially with like the kind of like work that like we're both doing with like healing, growing. I think that made me realize, like, where am I holding myself back thinking, oh, it's because I think I might not be good enough. Actually, no, it's because I'm actually scared of the power within me. I'm scared of unlocking that power. And what would happen if I actually let myself access that power?
Yeah, and be like successful, and it would mean you'd have responsibility. And
Yeah, exactly.
You're actually just scared of that. That's why when people, like, we say sometimes at our workshops and stuff, like, you can be scared of success, and people are like, why would I be scared of success? And it's like, that's like, why? Like, it's like a deep self-sabotaging fear that like you wouldn't be able to handle holding yourself at those higher standards. And if you really do step into your power, because it means you're operating at a high level. So yeah, it's a bit of a madness quote that I need to like get it put on a wall or something.
Yeah.
But when it comes to being successful, there was another part of the book that I really loved, and it really reminded me of like what Abraham Hicks preaches, and like one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Hicks, which is and we've said it on the podcast before, like, abundance expands proportionately to match desires. When somebody else gains, you don't lose anything, basically. And she kind of, Marianne in this book, like, says that. And so she says, like, our generosity towards others is key to our positive experience of the world. There's enough room for everyone to be beautiful, successful, and rich. Our thinking is the only thing that blocks that possibility from it happening. The people who have achieved more than you in any area are only half a step ahead of you in time. Time. Not skills. Not potential. Time. So bless them and praise their gifts, and bless and praise your own. Like, I really do think that when you like look at someone, you think, wow, you're amazing. Like, you know, the same way, like when you look at someone and judge someone, you're actually just judging yourself, because the only things you judge in someone else are what you judge yourself for, because life is a mirror. And like, you just like what literally like, because if you didn't, what you're judging that other person for, if you didn't already judge yourself for it, it wouldn't be in your ego's conscious awareness to find it irritating or whatever it is that why are you judging it. And it's the same way, like when you're looking at someone who's like done amazing things, it's not that like they are any better than you, it's just that they've put in the work and they've tried and they've done it. But actually, potential wise, like, you're the same, like you can do that too in your own way. So she's basically emphasizing that, and she says the world would be less rich without that successful person's contributions, and it would be less rich without yours. And that doesn't just mean like financially rich, that means rich in love and rich in like memories and excitement and fun, like without their existence and without your existence. She says there is room for everyone. In fact, there is a need for everyone. Because I really do believe like everyone's here for a reason. Like we're all here for a purpose. Like big or small, doesn't matter. But we're all here for a reason. And you're like literally meant to be here. So not thinking, oh, there's room for everyone. Actually, there's a need for everyone. Like we all need to be ourselves to harmonise out the world. We're all here at the same time for a reason. You know, all these different kinds of people to bring all that vibrancy to the world. So I love that, because I think especially in your 20s as well, and to be honest at any point in your life, like you can get so stuck in that like, oh, why have they got that and I haven't, when you just think, no, bless them, like bless what they're doing, and like send good vibes to like when you see them doing well, and those vibes come back to you, and it doesn't take away it doesn't eat any of your pie.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you feel good in the process as well. There's nothing better than looking at someone and feeling proud instead of those like horrible jealous anger, envy, sorry.
Yeah.
But you can switch it around. You just have to decide.
But we're just going to round up the episode now, because we could talk about this book all day long, but really you just need to go and read it and take from it what you want to. But they were the things that really kind of stood out to us and like really changed the way we think. But there's a really nice bit of the book that is going to be our quote of the week. So our like quotes at the end the episode. If you're new here, we do this on most of our episodes. We round up with a little inspiring quote to leave you with, and this one is straight out of the book, and it says, "There is no order of difficulty in miracles. No matter what the shape of a problem, its form or its size, a miracle can handle it. Miracles mean that at any moment we can begin again. No matter what the problem, as long as we return our minds to a graceful position now, the universe will always help us clean up the mess and start over."
Beautiful. I love that quote, and I just love the whole book so much. I really feel like returning to love in every single area of your life is what will change your life. And something we didn't actually mention in the episode, but she talks a lot in podcast stuff about how like just living your life in the frequency of love every single day, sending love to people, like that is so powerful. Like every morning imagining yourself in love, in a love bubble, imagining the people you're going to meet, blessing them in love. Like love is so powerful. It's like the highest frequency on earth. So returning to love and like leaving the fear and returning to love is what will seriously change your life.
Yeah, because she says that like humans need love the same, on the exact same level that plants need oxygen. Like when you're like, you know, like when people are lonely, when like old people live on their own or whatever, and they're lonely, like they die earlier than people that aren't. Like love really does, we need it. So yeah, like she literally like blesses people before she goes into a meeting in her mind, like as in like not in like a weird way, but as in like thinks everyone, sending love to everyone in this meeting, in like before she goes in, like this is going to be a great meeting, kind of like setting an intention as well. And that really changes the outcome of what she's doing, because like we said, it's the highest frequency is love. So if you're sending that out, you're going to be met back with a lot of good stuff. But yeah, we'll leave a link in the show notes where you can grab yourselves a copy of A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. But it's a good book. Just give it a go. Get your highlighter out, because you'll need it for this one. Like there's a lot of things that you want to flip back to, and just get past it. Just oversee all the Jesus, Holy Spirit and God words if you're not into those. Just see past those, and don't let that put you off, because it really is just like the universe and vibes basically. But
yeah, and if you do read it, come and let us know your thoughts or like your favourite parts. We always love chatting.
Report back to the book club.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening, everybody. Don't forget, there's only a very short amount of time until our workshop on Sunday the 16th of January. So if you're listening to that before then, you want to join us, do come and grab your ticket. The link is in the show notes. But we will see you in the next episode next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.